The Legend of Zelda is another title, guys, that has really spanned and really done so well over the course of time in the gaming industry, in the gaming landscape. And a lot of people have been talking about Breath of the Wild too. And obviously, this being a title that's coming, that people are really excited about to see like where this franchise goes. And full disclosure, guys, Breath of the Wild to me, I thought from a visual perspective, from a narrative perspective, I thought it was, just like it was breathtaking. I mean, no pun intended. I mean, it was absolutely incredible in a number of ways. For me, I wasn't a massive fan of the gameplay quite as much as some people were. I was a little bit critical of a few things in Breath of the Wild, but nonetheless, I would say that if they're planning on making this, and it sounds like they are going to make this a long withstanding, sub-series and overall, franchise of The Legend of Zelda, they definitely are off to a fantastic start, to say the least. So that being said, I want to talk about everything that we know at this point in time about the title. We can break it down, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. So let's get into it. So in an article coming to us from Gerald Lynch and Henry Leager of Tech Radar, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is coming in 2022. So The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is a much longed for sequel to 2017's Breath of the Wild, and it's expected to launch exclusively on Nintendo Switch later this year. Based on what we've seen so far, it looks like Breath of the Wild 2 is going to build on the success of its 2017 predecessor, possibly somewhat literally, as the most recent trailer shows Link navigating the skies of Hyrule in a way that reminded us of Skyward Sword. Before we go any further, Glassy, obviously, with Breath of the Wild, I mean, it was like transcended in a number of ways. I mean, people were freaking out about this title when it came out, won, so many awards and such. And overall, like I said, it is something to behold for sure. If you have not played it, it's definitely something that you got to play. What are your thoughts? What were your thoughts about Breath of the Wild, first of all? And what are your, hopes here for the sequel?
So the biggest thing about Breath of the Wild that really captured my attention and still continues to capture my attention now, because I've beaten the game multiple times, and I'm at that point where I can beat the last guy right now. I just choose not to because there's so much to explore, and that was the biggest thing, is the giant open world concept that Breath of the Wild brought. The one thing that it didn't bring too much of was cave exploration or anything like that, in which Breath of the Wild 2 is supposedly supposed to be bringing that into its concept, is more exploration underground versus all of the mountaintops or the beaches or the valleys. That's what you have in Breath of the Wild. And I still play it now. In fact, I've got it loaded up in my Switch downstairs right now. But it looks like we do have somewhat of a quote unquote release date that's going to be coming out. It'll be coming out sometime towards the holidays of this year. So Breath of the Wild 2 is confirmed to be in the making, and it's confirmed to be released sometime around the end of this year.
Yeah. Glassy, like I said, I've been a little bit, I have been a little bit critical. I'm not quite as, there's certain games that I'm not as, I haven't bought fully into the hype train, so to speak. Like, I'll give you an example would be, and a lot of people, they've given me a lot of flack for, was God of War. When God of War came out, granted, I loved, the new direction of the new God of War and what, where they kind of went with it. I loved it. I thought it was really cool, but I was critical of certain elements of it. I felt like God of War, even though like the gameplay felt great, it was obviously different from what God of War was in the past. There were just things about it, though, like I didn't like that there wasn't a lot of variety of different environments and like landscapes that we were like exploring and, obviously going down. And I thought that, that was one of the primary things that I had issues with God of War. With Breath of the Wild, I think for me, the exploratory element to it was incredible, but I found myself number of times like always being in places I shouldn't have been. And then I couldn't actually, defeat certain, certain creatures and enemies and things of that nature because I didn't have enough. I wasn't upgraded enough, so on and so forth. And so that was part of like my frustration with Breath of the Wild. Wasn't so much, a lot of it was just not knowing at all times like where I could go within the world without, getting completely annihilated by, different, whatever it was, like, different creatures and enemies and things of that nature. That was probably like one of my biggest gripes about Breath of the Wild. What, like, because I know I can't be alone when I say, and I knew I wasn't alone with God of War, that some people were also frustrated at a couple of things within that game. For people who are just jumping into Breath of the Wild, what would be your recommendation as far as, ways like to kind of maneuver around the world in a way which, obviously that they can enjoy the style of and really take in the entire experience of Breath of the Wild without getting significantly frustrated? Or is there really no way around like some of the difficulty elements of the game?
The best way, honestly, in my opinion, is really just take your time. Take your time. Do the side quests, because the side quests will oftentimes teach you new moves, teach you new maneuvers, teach you how to defend, how to fight, offensive, defensive. It'll really teach you how to play the game if you do the side quests. So if you bum rush straight through it and go Leroy Jenkins straight to the boss, you're probably going to get frustrated. You're going to lose over and over again, and you're probably going to break a $400 machine. Ask me how I know. But if you take your time, don't rush. And actually, I mean, that's the best thing about Breath of the Wild is that you don't have to rush. It's such a huge open world concept. And if they have Breath of the Wild 2, and if it brings a different scenery, or even if it just enhances the current scenery that we have now, or adds to it, that would be even better. Just like how Red Dead Redemption, you have RDR1 that had New Austin and all of that, but then RDR2 brought that whole new map. If they do that to Breath of the Wild 2, that'd be great. So all you have to do is just take your time. Don't rush it, and you'll learn.
Yeah. No, for sure, man. Yeah, it's definitely one of those ones, it took me a while to learn that you needed, without question, to do some of the side quests. At first I wasn't doing it. I was trying to just kind of do more of the main missions, and I was like, wow, like I can't defeat some of these, enemies and such. So yeah, doing the side quests I think is very true. In this article, guys, we got a better look at Breath of the Wild 2 in the E3 2021 Nintendo presentation, and it showed off a vast, expansive world of Hyrule, expanded even further with navigation into the skies, despite the more dungeon-crawling feeling of the original 2019 teaser. So if you guys haven't checked out, what has come out at this point, guys, as far as teaser trailers and things of that nature, I would definitely recommend checking it out. Now, obviously, the first Nintendo Direct of 2022 could be approaching, according to recent rumors. Prominent Nintendo leaker Samus Hunter has tweeted to say that they are confident to say that it should arrive before last February Direct, which took place on February 17, 2021, though they seem to suggest an early February Direct could be likely. They add that they don't rule out that it could also arrive in January. So it sounds like, as Glassy was saying, it sounds like they're going to be releasing Breath of the Wild 2 later this year, guys. Obviously, we don't have a confirmed release date. None of these things are really fully confirmed as of late. And I will say this, once a release date comes out, you got to take it with a pinch of salt, simply because, guys, obviously a lot of these titles that are out right now or are being developed, the entire crew and the team behind these games, a lot of times they aren't fully working. They may be working remotely, so things can kind of sometimes take a little bit longer than they should, or as they may, like if it's in a team setting, right? So you got to take those with a pinch of salt when it comes to the release date. I would say, guys, that it seems pretty, for the most part, it sounds like we are going to be getting it later this year, though, which is really, really, obviously exciting to say the least. Glassy, I know we were talking off camera here for, regarding like the next Nintendo product, whatever that may be. Do you think that, obviously, with Nintendo Direct coming and all of that, do you think we're going to get, an announcement of another Nintendo console, like at some point in 2022, or do you think they're just going to stick it out with the Switch for the foreseeable future? I believe when the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 came out, it was a couple of years after that, I think the Switch came out. I'm wondering if we're going to see something similar here. Do you think we could see a announcement for a new Nintendo console, or do you think they're going to stick it out with the Switch for the foreseeable future?
So I think whenever it came to Nintendo and trying to get into handheld situations, whenever they came out with the Wii, that was a good block. The Wii U, they started chipping it away. And once they finally got to the Switch, I think they already had made the wheel. So at this point, it would be very, in my opinion, would be counterintuitive for Nintendo to try to reinvent the wheel. They've got a very great working product. They went ahead and took the OLED Switch and added an Ethernet port to it so you can get direct link connection so you won't have any lagginess in your online gaming. But I don't think that they should coming up with any new products right now, because all that would do was just piss off all the people that just bought the new OLED Switch like myself. I think what, 378 after taxes. But I think they should stick it out with the Switch. They have a good thing going for them right now. That's a pretty solid console, especially since it's not only something you can play on TV, but you can take it with you. So it I think it's pretty perfect as it is.
Yeah, no, for sure. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that, guys, as far as getting a new console. If that's something that may happen, I don't see it probably happening this year, or at least an announcement. I would say, could it be something that happens in the future? I think, it could very well happen. We'll just have to wait and see. There's been talk, guys, that Breath of the Wild 2 will be a darker turn for the series. All we really know at this point is how little we know, but there are rumors. The unexpected trailer sparked a huge amount of speculation, hopes, and hot takes on what the next mainline Zelda title might include. The trailer certainly supports this, with what looks, like a corpse being resurrected by a disembodied hand, and seemingly imagery from 2006 Twilight Princess, which saw Hyrule turned into a bleak shadow realm, largely in response to the far cheerier and cartoonish The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. That said, it won't be all doom and gloom, visually at least, as the E3 2021 trailer has at least indicated that we'll take it to the skies and explore amongst the clouds. Would you, Glassy, I guess, to wrap up, Breath of the Wild 2, would you be up for a Breath of the Wild 2 being darker, like a darker take on the series, or would you rather them kind of do more of the same, what they did in Breath of the Wild, just kind of have like some new environments, some new characters, some new enemies? Like, what would you be okay with it going a little bit darker toned?
It's actually not a bad concept. I never thought of it like that. What they could do is something like Red Dead, where they have the honor system. It's already an open world concept. You can interact with the bad guys or the good guys, which mainly the good guys don't do anything to you, and you just kill all the bad guys. But if you had some type of honor system that allowed you to, but I think if they did that, they'd have to change up the entire story as a whole, because if you are a bad guy going out to kill the bad guy at the end, it just doesn't make sense. But if they did do that, it'd be pretty good. No, I think that they're probably going to stick with the latter of the two. They're going to kind of keep it where they bring in different enemies, different challenges, different bosses, and go from there. And different side quests as well. Just like you said, they have us floating in the air. Well, there might be a lot of side quests that have us way above the ground and way below the ground.
Yeah, no, for sure. It'll be interesting to see kind of what they decide to do here with this upcoming sequel, guys. I'll be sure to give you guys more information as it comes out, but what do you all think about The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2? What are your thoughts? What are the things that you're hoping to see in this next iteration of this beloved franchise? Let us know in the comment section down below. And for more Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.